Hello everyone, welcome to NDA Defense Institute's Daily Current Affairs. So let us see the important current affairs of today. The first one, it is BEML. Okay, this BEML stands for Bharat Earth Movers Limited. So this is established in 1964 as a public sector undertaking. So what it is for mainly manufacturing is rail coaches and spare parts and other mining equipments, okay, for heavy industries. Okay, rail coaches, spare parts and mining equipments, dredgers, rollers, breakers, like that. So what is a public sector enterprises, PSU? It is nothing but a company or an entity where majority held investment are held by government. For example, if it is 100% investment, okay, 15% it will be by Government of India and remaining 40% it will be by private players. So an enterprise where government holds majority stakes, it is called as PSU. That is why it is called, since the government uses public money, it is called as public sector undertaking. For example, if a company is having 100 crores of investment, 100 crores, 100 crore முதலுள்ள ஒரு company, out of that 15 crore will be by Government of India and remaining 49 crore will be from private investors. So that is why it is called public sector undertaking. So this BEML, it is one of the leading manufacturers, okay, of this rail and metro coaches, and its headquarters it is in Bangalore. Recently, the DIPAM, which is called Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, and NITI, they both agreed to a proposal by this BEML, which is incorporation of this wholly owned subsidiary. When I say wholly owned subsidiary, it means BEML, okay, it will invest some amount to create a subsidiary. Subsidiary in the sense, adoda innuru branch, okay, like a branch, not exactly a branch, it is like a branch for the demerger, okay, to separate surplus land and asset, okay, as part of this BEML's strategic disinvestment process. Okay, surplus land and asset ரெண்டுத்தையும் தனியாக பிரித்து ஒரு செப்பரேட் wholly owned subsidiary ஒரு தனி கம்பெனி ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கான ப்ரொபோசலை they accepted. So there is a word called disinvestment. What is the disinvestment? Simple, diluting the government's money in the public sector enterprises is called disinvestment. For example, when government want to take back the money, 15 crore vana, okay, I will take some 20 crores back. So I will only maintain, you take 21 crores, 31 crores. So diluting or taking away the investment back from the public sector enterprise by the government, it is called as disinvestment. So investment mean panam போடுறது, disinvestment mean taking back the money. Second one is declassification and compilation of war operations, war or operation histories. So what is declassification? Classification means, okay, keeping it as a secret, keeping something as a secret. The exact opposite of it is declassification. It is a meaning. Open வெளியே விடுறது, it is called declassification. So Raksha Mandri, our Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, he approved the policy on archiving, declassification and compilation or publication of war operations histories by the Ministry of Defense. So archiving means having a record of. Generally, if an operation, for example, Balakot strike, generally a surgical strike, anything that happened that has been done by the Army, Navy and other armed forces of India, it will not be released for 25 years. The detail will not be released for 25 years. Okay, for security and safety purposes. Only after 25 years that will be openly said, okay, we did this and during that we have suffered this much casualties and all, for the security and safety purpose. And as you can see, according to the dequalification policy, records should be ordinarily be declassified in 25 years. So that means, for example, we conducted the surgical strike in 2020, okay, in 2035 only, okay, the details about that particular will be declassified. Till that it will be classified, means kept it as a secret information, okay. And they have bring about certain changes in this declassification policy. As you can see, records older than 25 years should be appraised by archival experts and transferred to the National Archives of India, NAI. Okay, it contains all the information, okay, all the records of the government till this, okay, till this British period. From till now they have all these important documents. And the committee headed by the joint secretary, okay, an IAS officer in the Ministry of Defense and other representative of the services, okay, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Home Affairs and other prominent military historians, okay, they will constitute this committee, okay, they will together form a committee and they will say what are the information that can be declassified, enna information la veliya sollalam அப்படின்றது they will decide, okay. And according to the policy, our war or operation histories to be complied within 15 years, okay. Once the 25 years period is over and within 5 years after the end of the 25 years period, the history or the war operation and all other details has to be openly publicized to the people of India. Next one, it is Northern Ireland Protocol. Okay, so this is a protocol between EU, European Union, and Britain or UK. Okay, after the Brexit, you all know Brexit, exit of Britain from the European Union. So the European Union is a 27 national bloc. Okay, they have economic union. Okay, they share the same currency and they have an economic union. And because what happened recently, Britain and EU, okay, they faced a diplomatic problem. Okay, a feud in the sense a fight, a small fight. Okay, why in the sense, as you can see in the map, UK is itself a part of islands. As you can see, this is Wales. Okay, this is England. This is Scotland, and this area, this specific area where the map is shown as UK, it is Northern Ireland. Okay, this country is called Ireland. Ireland is a separate country, and in that country, this Northern Ireland, it's okay. This part only, okay, the specific part, it's belong to this UK. So Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England together they are called as UK. Okay, what happened? This Ireland is still in the European Union. Because of that, this area, it came out, this Britain came out of this Brexit, and that is why this area is kept out of European Union. But still, since it is geographically bordering this Ireland, which is a part of European Union, they have some restrictions. They need to form some form of agreement. So that agreement is called as Northern Ireland Protocol. Okay, so this came into force on 1st January 2021. Okay, and what this document, what this protocol is all about, simple. As you can see, the lorries, for example, goods lorries, they have to drive across the land border without being inspected. Okay, the lorry can go in and this lorry can go out without any inspection, even though they came out of the European Union. Since it has geographical border, okay va, geographical speaking, idella onna irukadnala poi varalam. And also the other islands, Scotland, England, and Wales, no longer follow those rules. Okay, and this forms a regulatory border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Okay, so it created a regulatory border. So that is why this line, okay, that yellow and red line has been drawn here, as you can see, because a regulatory border has been created. Okay, and Britain thought that it is a attack on their sovereignty. எங்க கண்ட்ரியில் ஒரு பார்ட்டி அதையே வந்து எங்களுக்குலேருந்து பிரிச்சுட்டீங்க நீங்கள் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி they are fighting and they are questioning the EU's protocol. And also new checks on goods when they enter the Northern Ireland from England. Even though Northern Ireland is part of the England, அங்கேருந்து ஏதாவது goods உள்ளே என்டர் ஆகுது. For example, a ship from London, okay, reaches here, Northern Ireland, they have to go through a check, a goods check and customs clearance. ஒரு கண்ட்ரிக்குள்ளேருந்து இன்னொரு கண்ட்ரிக்கு போகிறதுக்கு, ஆனால் என்ன வேறு இடத்துல இருக்குது, அது ஒரு கண்ட்ரியோட பார்ட், they have to go this clearance. So that is what is this Northern Ireland Protocol is all about. As you can see, geographically Northern Ireland is part of Ireland. Ireland is a separate country, but politically it is part of UK. Okay, as you can see the map of UK, this part only belongs to UK, and this Ireland part is a separate nation, okay, with the capital as Dublin. And Ireland, this Northern Ireland has a important city called Belfast. So next one is Umingla. Okay, law means pass. Okay, pass or ghat. So generally Himalayan mountain ranges are like that, it will be difficult to cross, and this area Pallatak, they say, the Pallatak is called as pass or ghat. So it will be easy for us, for the people to travel. So this valley area where people can able to travel from this area to that area, it is called as pass or ghat or Pallatak. So recently the defense minister flagged off the first ever solo woman motorcycle expedition, okay, by Miss Kanjan Ugur Sandi to this Umling Pass, which is in Ladakh. Okay, Ladakh. So what is the speciality about this Umlingla Pass? Simple, it is located at the altitude of 19,300 feet. It is the highest motorable road in the world. Very, very important. Highest motorable road. It means altitude wise. Okay, the road. Okay, a constructed road, it is there. It means a motor vehicle can travel via that road. So that is why it is called motorable road in the world. Before that, it was Kardungla. As you can see, Kardungla Pass. Kardungla Pass has this distinction: highest motorable road in the world. But it has been, this distinction had been crossed by this Umingla, because the Border Road Organization, as you can see, BRO, the Border Roads Organization, responsible for developing and maintaining the roads in the border of India, under their project Himank. Okay, under this project they have constructed the specific road, and even the Umingla Pass, it will not be the end. After some years they will even build higher more road than Umingla, and that will become the world higher most motorable road. So this Umingla Pass, okay, it's a distance of around 86 km, connects this Chisimle and Demchok villages in Ladakh. Okay, and this lies this close proximity to Indo-China border, and because recently this China-India has been having a clash, and the building of this road is strategically important. Okay, project Himank of this border road organization. Next one, it is again border road organization BRO. So recently the defense minister inaugurated 2 centers of excellence, COE, okay, established by this BRO at CMS Sadak Bhawan in New Delhi. So what are the 2 centers? As you can see, Center of Excellence for Road Safety and Awareness, COERSA, and Center of Excellence for Road, Bridges, Airfields and Tunnels, to encourage growth in construction of roads, bridges, airfields and tunnels. Airfield in the sense like airstrips, a miniature version of airport where the aeroplanes, okay, the fighter aircrafts used to land. So that is called airfield or airstrips. So what is this border organization? So this organization was formed in 1960, okay, a road construction executive force. What is the purpose of this border organization? Simple, it develops and maintains road networks in India's border areas as well as friendly neighboring countries. Both India's borders as well as friendly neighboring countries. You may wonder, why can't the Ministry of Road Transport can do that? So because the strategical area has more this significance, transport significance than other areas compared to the other areas. So that is why, to impart significance, they have created a separate organization to look after the roads. Okay, and what are the neighboring countries? Friendly neighboring countries. Specifically they say neighboring countries. It does not include Pakistan, because Pakistan is an enemy country. Afghanistan, Bhutan, Myanmar, Tajikistan and Sri Lanka. Okay, and initially this BRO was under Ministry of Road Transport, and only in 2015 the BRO has entirely brought under Ministry of Defence, MOD. So next one, it is child labor. So recently in June 12th, okay, the World Day Against Child Labor has been celebrated, and the Union Ministry for Child and Women and Child Development, they have appealed to the citizen and stressed the importance of, okay, this elimination of this child labor. How? By means of this pencil portal and also the child helpline. The child helpline, it is 1098, okay, and 1075 it is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare helpline. And the World Day Against Child Labor, it is observed generally on 12th June of every year, okay, around the world. So how this day came to be known? The International Labour Organization, one of the special agencies, okay, special agencies of UNO, United Nations Organization. This ILO and WHO is a very oldest organization to come. Okay, 1920s. This ILO came into being in 1920s itself. It is one of the oldest organization. Even before United Nations Organization, UNO was formed in 1945. UNO, அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்தே இந்த ஆர்கனைசேஷன் இருக்கு. ஓகே, இட் வாஸ் பார்ட் ஆஃப் லீக் ஆஃப் நேஷன்ஸ், LON, and they only launched this World Day Against Child Labor in 2002 for the first time. Okay, why this is significance? This specific day, this year, it is of very important significance. Why? In the sense, the ILO or International Labour Organization announced 2021 as the International Year for Elimination of Child Labor. So that is why this year it is of utmost importance. And the convention, ILO's convention, number 182, talks about the worst forms of child labor. Okay, so child being employed in hazardous factories, chemical factories, manhole cleaning, human waste cleaning, manual scavenging, like that. So pencil, very important one. Okay, it is a portal by Ministry of Labour and Employment. So what is the acronym? This pencil stands for Platform for Effective Enforcement for No Child Labor. Okay, created by in 2017 by the Ministry of Labour and Employment. What is the purpose? Ensure effective enforcement of the Child Labor Act and also implementation of National Child Labor Project. Okay, pencil portal. So anyone, if they find a child, okay, along the roadside, or if you find a child being employed in a hazardous industry, you can go to this pencil portal and you can give a complaint. Any person, okay, you can go and do. And even child tracking system has been provided in this pencil portal. Next one, it is recommendations of the 44th GST Council meeting. Recently, the 44th GST Council meeting has been held under the chairmanship of Union Minister. Okay, the GST Council is the constitutional body, remember. Constitutional body, which means it is a permanent body. Constitutional body created by Article 279A. Okay, Article 279A of the Indian Constitution. It is a constitutional body. The chairman of the GST Council, it is Union Finance Minister. And what are the members? The members include Minister of Finance of all states. Okay, all state finance ministers. From Tamil Nadu, PTR and all other state finance ministers, they will be the members, and she will, the Minister of Finance, as of from Nirmala Sitharaman, she is the chairman. And they have decided, okay, they will recommend this GST Council, they will only recommend, okay, the decisions regarding the taxes, how much tax we have to make and when we have to implement, all other things they will recommend. But they will only recommend, they will not have any binding effect. Only the Ministry of Finance, the Union Minister, they have the power to finally approve it. But it depends on the Union Ministry to whether to accept it or not accept it. Okay. So recently they waived this tax on 2 critical drugs against COVID and mucormycosis or black fungus, which is tocilizumab and amphotericin B. So the tocilizumab is a immunosuppressant drug for COVID-19 treatment, and amphotericin B, it is for this black fungus or mucormycosis treatment. And they also 5% GST on vaccines, it left unchanged. Many states pitched for 0% for vaccine, but still they have put this 5%, and other GST rate on remdesivir, anticoagulants like heparin, the GST reduced from 12% to 5%. Generally GST, it has 0%, many slabs, okay, slabs in the sense rate, 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, and the highermost slab is 28%. Okay, this is the slabs of GST: 0, 5, 12, 18, 20. And ambulances, which are currently taxed as 28%, okay, now it is reduced to 12%. And the temperature checking equipment, okay, this electrical thermometers, okay, everything, and electrical furnace, it will attract only 5% instead of before 18%. And they have also reduced the GST rate of this oxygen concentrators, medical grade oxygen, ventilators, and BiPAP machine. BiPAP machine means bi-level passive, airway passage. So that is called BiPAP machine. It is kind of to help you breathing. Okay, people having breathing problem, they will use this BiPAP machines, okay, for easy breathing. Okay, and the GST rate has been brought down, okay, to 5%. So they have considerably reduced. Other states were asking for 0%, but they have considerably reduced the GST tax, okay, for the easy procurement, for us to make use people, okay, people on the easy அதை வாங்குறதுக்கு tax கம்மியா இருந்தனா விலையும் குறையும், it will encourage the people to buy them. So that is why they have reduced this tax rates. And next one, it is Baritilla sucus tapani. So recently, as international team, okay, has tested a specimen which has been found out by the Indian Statistical Institute of Kolkata in the Erapalli formation in Telangana, related to a fossil. Okay, Erapalli formation, it is in Telangana. They have studied the fossil, and the international team, after research, they said this fossil belongs to a carnivorous reptile. Carnivorous in the sense meat eating, a reptile that lived 240 million years ago, and they named it as Baratilla sucus tapani. Okay, since it is found in Telangana area, it is given this Telugu name. Bari means huge, Tala means head, and Sucus means an Egyptian crocodile headed deity. Okay, a deity, a crocodile. Okay, crocodile on the devamam as a god. So since it looked like that, you can see the image. So these are all the bones, specimen bones. Using that bones that have been found out, they have reconstructed, okay, this specific reptile which lived 240 million years ago, and the name Tapani has been given to honor a paleontologist called Tapan Roy Chowdhury. Okay, and this specific Baratilla sucus tapani, it belonged to Erythroshuchidae, a extinct reptile, and it is nearly the size of an adult male lion. Okay, or ansing அளவுக்கு இருக்குமா இதோட size, and it has been the largest predator in the ecosystem at that time. Okay, and specific other information, this Erapalli formation, it is a Triassic rock formation. There are 3 types: Jurassic, Triassic, and Cretaceous. So 3 grouped ages, okay, in the geological time scale. This Triassic period, this rock formed during this Triassic period. That is why it is called as Triassic rock formation. The Triassic period is nearly 240 million years ago. Okay, and this Erapalli, it is present in this Pranita Godavari basin. Pranita is a tributary of Godavari river in Telangana. So this is the animal that has been found in India. The next one, it is Operation Oliva. So recently the Indian Coast Guard, okay, conducted this Operation Oliva. This operation has been conducted every year by the Coast Guard since 1970s. What is the aim? Simple, protect olive ridley turtle. Okay, it is a mammal, and along the Odisha coast for breeding and nesting from November to December. Generally the olive ridley turtles, during the November to December period, they will come to the coast in millions, okay, and they will lay eggs and they will go back, and their eggs, hatchlings will hatch, come back, and we have seen in Nat Geo and all, the young turtle will go and again join to the sea, okay, and the kuti turtle will look again after acquiring a big size, again, okay, they will come back to nest in the Odisha coast specifically. And the Orissa Marine Fisheries Act empowers the Coast Guard, okay, one of the defense forces of India, to as an enforcement agencies. They will look for the strict enforcement. Okay, if anyone comes saying attacking or poaching this turtle, they will be arrested. This because this olive ridleys, it is listed as vulnerable or VU under the IUCN's red list. Very important. Okay, and it is also under the Schedule 1 of Indian Wildlife Protection Act. So Schedule 1, it has maximum protection. Okay, Indian Royal Bengal tiger, lion, all the important animal of India, it is under the Schedule 1. Schedule 1 attract maximum punishment. Okay, there are schedules, okay, there are nearly 6 schedules, okay, 5 for animals, last 6 for plants, nearly 6 schedule animals. And it also been part of this CITES treaty, which is an acronym for Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So it will regulate the trade of flora and fauna of animals and plants without threatening their survival. Aதாவது the trade பண்ணா animals-ஐயும் plants-ஐயும் throughout the world, but without threatening their survival. அது அழிஞ்சு போகிற அளவுக்கு they cannot trade. So that is why this CITES treaty is all about, and it is also protected on this CITES. So in India, 3 places are very important for this olive ridley turtle nesting site. One is Devi River coast. Along everything is in Odisha. Devi River, Rushikulya. Third one, it is Garihamatta. So everything is in Odisha. So these 3 are the important nesting site, specifically in Odisha. Okay, Devi River, mouth of Devi River, mouth in the sense the river, where the river joins the ocean, that is called mouth. Mouth of Devi River, Rushikulya beach, and also Garihamatta beach. It is important in Odisha where the olive ridleys used to nest. So that is all. To protect this olive ridleys, the Coast Guard launched this Operation Olivia. So that's all about today's current affairs. Let us come up with the important and more informative current affairs tomorrow. Thank you.